Holding 6 quadrillion gallons of fresh water, the 5 Great Lakes are the largest surface freshwater system in the world, holding more than 20% of the world's freshwater and serves as a primary water source for more than 40 million people. Some of this water probably ended up here, a small greenhouse outside a college dorm at Michigan State University.
I would say a primary principle in terms of water here on the farm is we really focus a lot on soil. Soil quality and soil health is a central pillar to organic food production. And so one thing we try to do here a lot is minimize water use or make more efficient our water use. So a piece of that would be having soil that has really high soil organic matter, which are particles in the soil that allow soil to hold on to nutrients better. They also maintain or retain water better. Ecosystems are stronger when there's more biodiversity, when there's more complexity. Same thing is true for us as humans, right? And so education's incredibly important. We want to create an engaged citizenry and students who can be advocates, but also have some technical knowledge around the food that they eat as consumers, the food that they might be producing as members of the industry. And so education's incredibly important when it comes to talking about sustainable food systems.
Now, let's look at an environment with a slightly different relationship with water. Welcome to the American Southwest, home to the second largest canyon in the world. The Grand Canyon was carved out by the raging Colorado River for over 5 million years, making the canyon over a mile in depth. Now, though, the river that did the damage has an average depth of only 20 feet, and that number is dropping with time, something you can see very clearly here at Lake Mead, which supplies over 40 million people across the American Southwest with fresh water to use in their homes. The line of different color in the earth surrounding the lake isn't a change in the type of rock. That's where the water used to be. As of March 2022, the water volume was measured at around 2.45 million gallons, only 31% of the lake's maximum volume. Where's all that water going? Las Vegas, Nevada, the home of gambling, extravagant architecture, and world-class entertainment. All of that uses a lot of water, though. Included in this water usage is the water needed for the food avenue of the Vegas Strip. You'll have options like In-N-Out, Gordon Ramsay's Hell's Kitchen, or maybe a bottomless plate from this buffet. All this food and all this water. But outside of this luxury, we have a food desert. Today, we will be looking at water scarcity and food deserts in Las Vegas. However, referring to this phenomenon as a food desert is problematic. It gives incorrect connotations of a literal desert, a harsh and inhospitable area, when in reality many of these areas have climates and soils viable for agriculture. Instead, the term food apartheid is more representative of this phenomenon, as it recognizes the intersectionality of discrimination that deprives people of food, usually based on race and socioeconomic status. This potentially unintended impact of our government and the private sector is influenced by global capitalism and discourages fair access to food.
We try different kinds of vegetables every year and document what does well and what doesn't do well. And we also have a research facility in North Las Vegas that is the main purpose. There are drought-tolerant trees, and that's one thing we try to emphasize. Everyone wants to grow apricots or apples or what we're familiar with, especially from the East and California. But there's so many. Pomegranates are wonderful, beautiful flowers, excellent fruit, and figs. So many different varieties of figs that you can grow here. I know that when I go to look for plant material, I'm looking always for something that will survive here. And one of the goals when we were doing the landscapes, we asked the landscape architects to design so that at least 50% of our landscape would at least survive if we had to turn the water off. So you have to think ahead. Well, irrigation is probably the main problem that we have, which is really important because do we need to water when we have something like the desert willow over there that will live on the side of the road and bloom perfectly fine once it's established? Know your plant material. Take classes from extension. That's what we're here for. Some of the soils hold too much water, some are more sandy, depends on where you are in the valley. It drains too fast. Organic material will improve the soil. You can choose by saying, hey, I want plants that are adapted to our climate, but are not cacti and succulents that need more organic material to help save water. 2 or 3% of organic material in the soil, and then especially mulching with organic mulch on top, can save you 50 to 75% water. Get away from homeowner associations that say you can't grow anything that's a food crop in the front yard. A lot of these homeowner associations are run by big corporations, and all they want is the money.
You naturally can't introduce an agricultural element into a HOA, but there's still plenty of like county parcels that you can buy or rent. Like in this case, we're just renting. And I like being self-sufficient, producing our own food, honey, meat, milk. I ended up getting a whole bunch of beehives, like a couple hundred of them. There's not a better pollinator on planet Earth. And so bees are hardworking, they're industrial, and obviously with our food nowadays, unless you want to just eat beef jerky all day, then you want some veggies in your life or some fruits in your life, you've got to have bees. The nectar, if it's too dry, will just evaporate like before the bees can really get to it. And so there's got to be some moisture in the air, not a lot, but there's got to be a relatively decent amount of humidity. Water usage, you can do it smarter. You can have more drip systems, things like that to irrigate, and you have a lot less waste. I think that at the end of the day, there's plenty of water to grow all of our food. We just have to use it in a way that we can not waste as much of it. The farmers markets in Vegas are primarily the local community. At one point, we did the only farmers market ever on the Strip downtown or down in Las Vegas, and that was pretty neat, but we didn't sell a whole lot. People were there for other reasons, and so primarily it's just a bunch of repeat customers that love our honey and love the stuff we do. It's good to produce food right here, and it's really good for people to get food that's locally produced.
What anchors me is that I have a passion for plants. No disrespect to all my brothers and sisters, but I'm not really a big fan of humans. I'd rather work with plants. You know what I'm saying? So I wanted to contribute to the food deserts, and literally we are a desert. So I'm like, all right, I got to figure out how to grow out here. And one of the options was urban farming, which you could do like hydroponics, you could do indoor, you can go vertical, so you don't need a lot of acreage. For hydroponics, it's a little bit intense, but we have reverence with the water. We don't like abuse it, if you will, because first of all, we live in desert, so water retention is paramount. So we focus a lot of techniques on our water retention, and it's always going to be an essential part of growing, so we got to focus on it. I think it's going to be a lot more vertical farms, aquaponics, and I think urban farming is going to be the new wave of Las Vegas. I mean, we have a lot of people here, we have a lot of ideas here, we have a lot of tools and techniques, so I think we'll figure it out. And sustainable, we want to be sustainable. Like, all in all, we don't want to rely on other states for our perishables. If we can grow our own, I think that's where the power's at, So, I mean, you can farm out here. There's A matter of fact, they've been doing this long before we came out here. Las Vegas, they have the Paiute tribe. They use a technique called waffle gardening. So it's just imagine a waffle, the top of waffle, but it's inside the ground. And it's made just for water retention. So when it does rain, it's gonna puddle up in those little squares instead of running off. But it's absolutely feasible and can be done, but it takes hard work, and energy. So, and like I said, if you're growing food in the desert, you already got an upper hand, And right now, I think we all woke up to, our lifestyle, how we can all do better to be healthier and have a robust immune system to combat whatever, comes over.
I don't know so much. I'm not firsthand knowledge of the reservoirs here, but I'm just hearing from the local people here that Lake Mead's getting a little low. And of course, I believe it's being fed by the Colorado River. So yeah, we need to figure out ways to keep the water storage here too, because we've got millions of people right here in this valley that obviously need water. We are in a food desert, obviously. I would probably say 95% of everything that comes into this valley is being trucked in. What that means is pretty much takes me about 100 gallons of fuel a week to get here. So if I'm paying $6 a gallon, it costs me $600 a week just to get the produce here. We hate raising our prices. We've had to raise our prices a little bit. It's all coming from the outside, and that's kind of a risk for the people of Las Vegas, but we'll keep going. We'll do our best.
As we can see, it's not all bad news. Options exist to aid in the overcoming of food apartheid. The first step in doing so is raising awareness in communities, educating, and then promoting these grassroots efforts into action. Another option for individuals in food apartheids would be a food pantry, like this one.
So food insecurity is something that has existed long before the pandemic and, can fluctuate depending on, of course, the economy, financial difficulties, access to food, which simply is what food insecurity is, knowing what resources are out there to be able to obtain a nutritious variety of food items to support health, and understanding the importance of that as well to help prevent and manage chronic disease. This particular zip code has many individuals residing in the area where there's lower income. The access to food has improved. However, there are many convenience stores, fast food chains around this area, lesser access to those more nutritious foods.
So the food pantry here, we're all pretty much about reducing the stigma that's associated with getting assistance from food pantries. So all we really need is surface level demographic information. We really want to avoid asking for financial information. We don't delve too deep into that. We're not part of the governmental assistance kind of thing. So we want to help supplement people's food. So we just need that surface information to get you signed up to get assistance from us. So as far as local stuff goes, we do have the UNLV Gardens on campus that does periodically donate some of their harvest from us. The UNLV Food Pantry also does have a box that we do grow our own stuff in as well.
Majority here at the food pantry that come are students and faculty members, but a lot of the time, a lot of the students that do come here, they talk about how they are kind of living paycheck to paycheck, paying their textbooks or their classes and stuff. They don't have enough funds to get food. Sometimes they have to choose between either buying food or paying for school. So they'll pay for school before buying food, and they'll risk being food insecure. And that's why for here at the food pantry, we try to kind of help fight that. We have our farmers market, and that's something that we implemented not only to help our UNLV community, but also the community around UNLV and also the Las Vegas Valley. We work alongside the Nutrition Center here. We wanted to highlight fresh produce because sometimes it's hard to obtain fresh produce or refrigerated items because a lot of the food banks or food pantries just have shelf-stable items. So that is something that we have that's different from other food distributions.
So many food pantries in Vegas that are phenomenal, but we need to make sure there's not that stigma there. So our students and our elderly maybe have access and they're not afraid to go in there and ask questions. Or you can go to your local dollar store and you can get lentils and rice and canned and frozen items that are just as good for you, and they're not going to break the budget and they're going to meet your nutrition needs. So almost all of my clients have some type of food or nutrition ailment. they are more prone to diseases like diabetes and hypertension. So if they're in a food desert in Vegas, or they maybe don't feel like their provider can meet them on their level where they're comfortable, they might not receive the best information or the best education. If English isn't their first language and their provider can't really help them and meet them on their level, they're not going to get the care that they need and the interventions and the access they need to various things.
Hi again. Before we conclude, I'd like to talk about something missing from this documentary. Unfortunately, we never got the chance to directly interact with people in communities experiencing food apartheid in Las Vegas. Food insecurity is a taboo subject in our culture and is something that most aren't comfortable disclosing their status on. Those who are accessible and in power are not the stakeholders themselves. They aren't affected by this issue, which may explain why this issue is not prioritized.
Can build this machine. It is very inexpensive. I calculate that you can use the sun's energy to circulate the gases. And if you circulate from a liquid to a gas back in, compress it back into the tank, all the pipe you have between there will freeze. You encase that in something that you fill with glycol, then the whole outside surface gets cold. You cool it down to the dew point, you will create condensation on the outside of that. That will run off, and you do the math, if it's fairly large, you can get 3 to 4 gallons an hour. There is an issue, you've got to figure out the solution and make it happen.
Food apartheid exists, and with the ever-growing issues of water scarcity, especially in the American Southwest, the issue of food insecurity is deepening with every wasted drop of water. With Lake Mead's levels at an all-time low, less water gets to the people and communities who need it most, and drains instead into promoting the grandiose image of Las Vegas. We all rely on food and water to survive, whether it's in Michigan or Nevada, and it's essential that we work together to embrace and promote alternative methods of food production to empower communities from the inside out.